Hello and welcome to MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy. I am, of course, Andrew Wiebe. Next to me is, well, nobody. Jason Seguini is nowhere to be found on this Friday. He's probably lazing about at home. For some of you, that's really good news when it comes to fantasy advice. Team Wiebe gets it done. No Team Seguini this week. You're stuck with me. You'll have to go with what I say. 4 games this weekend, a big, big weekend for fantasy owners. 10 transfers you'll get in order to improve your team. Remember, you have to have your lineups in by Saturday night at 7:45 Eastern. Lock those in. Make sure you're a part of the party for this week's Fantasy Week. It's time to put that knowledge you developed over 37 weeks to good use, though. This week, we did it differently. I didn't have time to ask for questions. We're going to have to go with my advice and my advice only, and we're going to do it this way. 2 sections. Bet on it and don't bet on it. These are the things that I think that we'll see this weekend and how that applies to fantasy, and we'll start with Kansas City. I don't think you're going to see a lot of goals from the Revs this week, and I know a lot of you have relied on the likes of Lee Nguyen, Diego Fagundes, Juan Agudelo over the course of this season, but for me, those are guys not to bet on this year. Sporting KC, with the best defense in the league, 27 goals allowed over the course of the season. The last 5 games against the New England Revolution, 0 goals for the Revs. That does not bode well for them. Also a history of red cards on New England's side, so probably guys to steer clear of there. On the other side, Jimmy Nielsen, Matt Beasler, Aurelien Collin, maybe Seth Sinovic, all guys you probably want to look at picking up this week. Moving on, another bet on it for you. Robbie Keane at the StubHub Center. I know RSL's coming to town. They've got a good defense too, but Robbie Keane this year at home, 13 goals and 6 assists in 13 starts. That's great production no matter how you put it. He's also a beast in the playoffs. 6 starts last year, 6 goals. I would bet on Robbie Keane this week a lot. We've talked about it before. Feast or famine, I think you're going to be feasting with him. And finally, I would bet on a low-scoring game in Seattle this weekend. I would bet on guys like the Portland Timbers' Will Johnson or Rodney Wallace, both guys with potential for bonus points, and Rodney Wallace, remember, could get you shutout points as the Timbers' D stands tall. On the Seattle side, you're sticking with that bonus points theme. Clint Dempsey and Lamar Nagel, both midfielders that could get points for a shutout, but I think they'll also be productive even if they don't get goals or an assist. Another place to look is that Seattle Sounders back line. Jimmy Traore, DeAndre Yedlin, those crosses from the right side for Yedlin could reap benefits for guys like Eddie Johnson. Those are guys to bet on when it comes to that match. Of course, there are things that you don't want to bet on if you're a fantasy owner this weekend, and I think we're going to start in Houston, where I don't believe New York is going to give them a whooping like they have the last 2 times around. 4-1 and 3-0. Don't expect that this time. Look, that 3-0 game especially was dominated by Houston. New York was very, very efficient. 3 goals on 4 shots. They had 37% possession in that game. Houston dominated the ball, and they created plenty of chances. They just couldn't finish. And now that we've seen Will Bruin perhaps get the dancing bear back in order, he might be a good bet for you if you're a risk taker. If you're not, Oscar Boniat Garcia, he is the man to pick out of this game. I think he's a great play for any fantasy owner. Another team not to bet on from an offensive perspective, that's Sporting Kansas City. You just don't know who to play. Unless you're picking up Graham Zusi, Captain Fantasy, we should say, you're probably not looking at that forward line. Who starts? Claudio Bieler's been hurt. He's been in and out of the lineup. Dom Dwyer, not always productive, probably not a good bet for bonus points or assists. CJ Sapong, in and out. Suni Saad, inconsistent. Not a team you want to go for forward points. Stick with the same old subjects there. Your Eddie Johnsons, your Sabarios, your Keens, those basic plays that everybody knows but will end up paying off for you in the end. Take the chances in the midfield. And finally, don't bet on the Portland Timbers to shut out the Seattle Sounders this weekend at CenturyLink Field. I know that they did it at Geldwin Field recently, but look, the 2 balls hit the crossbar. Donovan Ricketts stood on his head, and there was no Eddie Johnson in that game. Eddie Johnson, a Timbers killer, 4 goals in 5 matches against them all time, 2-2 this season. I think he's a great bet as one of your forward options this week. Probably a good bet as captain as well, so don't bet on the Timbers defense. Perhaps Rodney Wallace if you're looking for some bonus points, but apart from that, stay away. Well, that's all we have here for fantasy advice ahead of the first leg of the semifinal series. Make sure you get your lineup in, though. Saturday night, 7:45 Eastern is the deadline. You've got 10 transfers to work with, so make sure you make some good decisions. For myself, Andrew Wiebe, and a non-existent Jason Seguini, that's all we have here on MLSsoccer.com's Playoff Central, presented by Samsung Galaxy.